Young Guns 2 is a 1990 Western film, and the sequel to Young Guns. It stars Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, and features William Peterson as Pat Garrett. It was written and produced by John Fusco and directed by Jeff Murphy. It follows the life of Billy the Kid in the years following the Lincoln County War, in which Billy was part of the Regulators, a group of around 6 highly skilled gunmen avenging the death of John Tunstall, and the years leading up to Billy's documented death. The film, however, is told by Brushy Bill Roberts, a man who in the 1940s appeared claiming to be the real Billy the Kid. While the film takes some creative license, it does show some of the main events leading up to Billy's documented death, including his talks with Governor Lew Wallace, his capture by friend-turned-foe Pat Garrett, his trial and his subsequent escape in which he killed 2 deputies. Plot: in 1950, attorney Charles Fallon is contacted by an elderly man named Brushy Bill Roberts. Brushy Bill tells Fallon that he is dying and wants to receive a pardon that he was promised 70 years before by the governor of New Mexico. When asked why he wants the pardon, Brushy Bill claims that he is really William H. Bonney aka Billy the Kid, whom everyone knows to have been shot and killed by Pat Garrett in 1881. Fallon then asks if Bill has any proof that he is the famous outlaw. Brushy Bill's story begins with the remaining Regulators having gone their separate ways. Billy has become part of a new gang with Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh and Pat Garrett. The New Mexico governor has issued warrants for the arrests of those involved in the Lincoln County Wars, including Billy, Doc Scurlock, and Jose Chavez Y. Chavez, who were dragged into town and imprisoned to await hanging. Meanwhile, Billy meets with the new governor Lew Wallace, who agrees to pardon Billy if he testifies against the Dolan Murphy faction. Billy soon finds out that he was tricked into being arrested with no chance of testifying against his old enemies. After escaping, Billy, along with the help of Rudabaugh and Garrett, pose as a lynch mob to spring Doc and Chavez from jail. When the gang successfully escape Lincoln, Billy mentions the Mexican Blackbird. Garrett decides not to go with the gang and, instead, opened a boarding house. As they make a run for the border along with farmer Henry William French and 14-year-old Tom O'Folliard, cattle baron John Simpson Chisholm and Governor Wallace approach Garrett to offer him the job as Lincoln County Sheriff and $1,000 to use whatever resources he needs to hunt Bonnie down and kill him. Garrett agrees and, forming a posse, begins his pursuit of the gang. Billy and the gang soon come to the town of White Oaks, where they meet up with former companion, Jane Greathouse, who runs a local bordello. Later that night, the town lynch mob comes for the gang and are intent on a hanging. Deputy Carlisle tries to negotiate a deal, the Indian, for a safe ride out. Billy refuses the offer and pushes the deputy out the door, who is then accidentally killed by the lynch mob. Garrett soon tracks Billy to the bordello, but is too late. Billy and his gang are continuously tracked by the posse, narrowly evading capture, but Tom is soon shot dead by Garrett. As they hide up, Billy admits that the Mexican Blackbird doesn't exist. It was just a pawn to get the gang back together and to keep riding. Doc is angered and tries to leave for home, but he is shot by one of Garrett's men and sacrifices himself to enable his friends to escape. Billy the Kid is soon brought back into Lincoln by Garrett and is sentenced to death by hanging. He is visited by Jane Greathouse, who arranges to leave a pistol in an outhouse. Billy uses the pistol to kill 2 guards and escapes to Old Fort Sumner. By the time he arrives, Dave has abandoned the group to make his way to Mexico, and Chavez is dying from a bullet wound. During the night, Garrett finds Billy unarmed. Billy asks Garrett to let him run to Mexico and tell the authorities that he killed him. Garrett declines because he believes Billy would not be able to resist coming back to the United States. Billy turns around, forcing Garrett to have to shoot him in the back, which he does not. In the morning, a fake burial is staged for Billy, and Garrett's horse is seen being taken by an unknown figure. Brushy Bill admits he never stole a horse from someone he didn't like, and further admits he didn't like Garrett, he loved him. Fallon, convinced that Brushy Bill is Billy the Kid, agrees to help him. The epilogue reveals that Arkansas Dave was beheaded once he reached Mexico to discourage more outlaws from crossing the border. Garrett's book, detailing his pursuit of Billy, was a dismal failure and he is eventually shot and killed in 1908. Brushy Bill met with the governor of New Mexico, but, despite corroboration from several surviving friends of the Kid, he was discredited and died less than a month later. Whether or not Brushy Bill was Billy the Kid remains a mystery. The final shot shows Billy pointing his gun at an off-screen target, saying to the target, "I'll make you famous." Cast: Emilio Estevez as William H. Billy the Kid, Bonnie, Brushy Bill Roberts, Kiefer Sutherland as Josiah Gordon, Doc Skerlock, Lou Diamond Phillips as Jose Chavez Y. Chavez, Christian Slater as Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, William Peterson as Pat Garrett, Alan Ruck as Henry William French, James Coburn as John Chisholm, Balthazar Getty as Tom O'Folliard, Jenny Wright as Jane Greathouse, Jack Kehoe as Ashmoon Upson, Robert Nepper as Deputy Carlyle, Viggo Mortensen as John W. Poe, Tracy Walter as Beaver Smith, Bradley Whitford as Charles Fallon, Scott Wilson as Governor Lew Wallace, Howie Young as Poe Posse. Production. Screenwriter-producer John Fusco culled much of Billy's dialogue from actual newspaper interviews and reports between 1879 to 1881. Fusco also appears as the branded man in the prison pit escape scene alongside Jon Bon Jovi. The cattle brand on Fusco's face reads JC, for cattle rancher John Chisholm. John Chisholm convinces Pat Garrett to accept a job as the new Lincoln County Sheriff. Coburn himself played Garrett in Sam Peckinpah's Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid soundtrack. Blaze of Glory. Emilio Estevez originally approached Jon Bon Jovi to ask him for permission to include the song Wanted Dead or Alive on the soundtrack. Bon Jovi didn't feel the song's lyrics were appropriate. However, he was inspired by the project and resolved to write a new song for the film that would be more in keeping with the period and setting. He quickly wrote the song, Blaze of Glory, and performed it on acoustic guitar in the New Mexico desert for Estevez and John Fusco. Blaze of Glory went on to reach No. 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Jon Bon Jovi would go on to name his debut solo album Blaze of Glory, which included the eponymous single as well as other songs from and inspired by the film. The album peaked at No. 3 on the Billboard 200 and No. 2 on the UK Albums Chart. Jon Bon Jovi also made a cameo appearance in the film, as one of the prisoners in the pit with Doc and Chavez. Score album. The film's original score was composed and conducted by Alan Silvestri, who provided string arrangements for the song Santa Fe, and has one brief track on Blaze of Glory. On September 19, 2011, Intradar Records issued Silvestri's score on its own CD. Scars, Small Hands, Lynch Mob, Finish the Game, Yoo-Hoo, Devil's Deal, More Than Hello, Tom Sees the Light, Coy Dog, Ride to Guano City, Battle, Little Tom Dies, Garrett's Place, Chavez's Wound, You Gonna Shoot, Stolen Horse, Reception. Box office. Young Guns 2 opened on August 1, 1990 in the United States in 1,770 theaters, accumulating $8,017,438 over its opening weekend. It finished third for the weekend, behind Ghost and Presumed Innocent. The film went on to gross $44,143,410 domestically. The film was also successful on video rental. Critical response. Young Guns 2 received mixed reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has received a 35% approval rating based on 17 reviews.